All right, so here's a story of George W. Bush from Huffington Post a couple of days ago now, entitled George W. Bush Bikes with Injured Vets, Reflects on White House Decisions, Life After Presidency. And it's the story of how George W. Bush has had 3 annual Warrior 100Ks ever since I started to get on a mountain bike just to get the stress out. I like to have a bunch of guys come around me. We ride bikes.
Oh, not just any guys.
Not just any guys. 13 of the 75 participants were wounded vets who were wounded either physically or psychologically in Afghanistan or in Iraq. He invites then about another 60 people who are just part of his entourage. Bush, who always rides at the front, pushed the pace, yelling and cajoling his fellow cyclists. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't it possible that there are other cyclists there who might ride a bike better than George Bush? Well,
I don't think so.
at rest stops, Bush was impatient to get going again. He'd pause, drink some Gatorade, chat, grin, bask in the endorphin rush, make a few jokes, and then hop on his carbon-frame Trek Superfly 100 Elite. Yeah, baby, he'd exclaim. By the end, however, he was exhausted. Quote, I was gashed. Bush admitted to me the next day, 30 miles is a long way on a mountain bike. I was tired. Yet, still in the lead. Wonder why that is. Now, what's important about that fact is that Bush thinks he's in a race with all these people. He genuinely thinks he's racing them.
People he sent off to war and were injured.
But all of the people. And in fact, he's not. Because everyone essentially gets the message. You're supposed to ride behind him. Did we reach Zen out there? I asked him after the ride. I'm beyond that, he replied, a little groggily. What does it mean when you're seeing triple? Ultra Zen. So Bush goes on to say, fame can be very addictive. I've had all the fame a man could want. Asked if he enjoyed the fame? Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, it was my life. I wasn't the center of my life. It wasn't the center of my life. I mean, let me rephrase that. I enjoyed being president. And when you're president, you're famous. Now, whether I enjoyed fame itself, I just, you'd have to get the psychoanalyst on me. Well, no, we don't. We just have to find out that you still sort of demand that everybody ride behind you on the trail. And we know the answer to that. Okay, guilty as charged, Sam. I don't long for fame, nor do I long for power. I've come to realize that power can be corrosive if you've had it for too long. It can dim your vision. And so I came to the conclusion, that I don't long for fame and really going to shy away from it. Not shy away from it, avoid it. I'm not very shy. Avoid it. In other words, George Bush, still an idiot in many respects, still self-deluded, but more relevantly, as the piece goes on, he is asked to address the notion of riding with vets who have suffered because of his decisions. And he had this to say, well, to a certain extent, you can't help it, because had I not made decisions I made, they wouldn't have been in combat. On the other hand, every one of these men were volunteers. None of them are angry. They themselves don't blame anybody. And so I believe strongly that the decisions I made were the right decisions, I knew going in that there were bad consequences to war. That's why if people study my decision, they will recognize I tried to solve the problem, diplomatically. Now, if this echoes the line that he's been pimping with the advent of the Bush library, and specifically the decision theater, where you go in and you have Bush advisors tell you about a decision you should make. Maybe I should go to war. Maybe I shouldn't. And then you get to choose, what decision would you make? And if you choose, don't go to war, you then hear from Andy Card, who comes up on a IMAX screen saying, you were wrong. We should go to the war. The idea that George Bush exhausted all diplomatic options is beyond fanciful. It is a fundamental lie. You have not exhausted diplomatic options when you tell weapons inspectors, hundreds of them who have been in Iraq, sending out messages in the press and privately, somebody needs to tell us where these supposed weapons of mass destruction are because they are not in this country. When you tell them to evacuate, because in 24 hours you're going to bomb the hell out of a country, you have not exhausted all diplomatic options. And that's without even addressing the question of what were the problems that demanded such intense diplomacy and such urgency? What was Iraq doing that supposedly threatened our national security? We were a little late if he was worried about the slaughter of the Kurds. We were a little late if he was worried about the chemicals that we gave him that he used on his own people by almost a decade or so. Plus. So what was the problems that he was so desperately attempting to solve diplomatically that still constituted a reason for us to invade and occupy? This man is so deluded. It is not terribly surprising. But at the end he says, here's what strikes me. Not 1 ounce of self-pity.
This is after a bunch of the veterans are telling their stories. He says this line.
That's right. This is at the speech before the race. What strikes me is not an ounce of self-pity. What an interesting lesson. No self-pity. Just courage and a desire to move on. So we thank you very much for your stories. We thank you for sharing. This is George Bush saying, I just got license not to worry about it. Ha ha! I'm free and clear, baby. It's just time for me to paint, ride bikes, have a pretzel. And then he added after that, looking forward to kicking your ass tomorrow. Which, of course, we know was already a foregone conclusion because you don't ride in front of the president. What a demented individual.